The gallery's glare. The champagne flute trembled in Celeste Moreau's paint-stained fingers as another flash exploded in her peripheral vision. 3 weeks ago, she'd been nobody, just another struggling artist teaching weekend workshops to pay rent. Now, thanks to a tech mogul's drunken $1 million bid on her painting at the charity auction, she couldn't buy groceries without someone shoving a microphone in her face. "Miss Moreau, how does it feel to be the art world's Cinderella?" "Celeste, are you dating Gregory Walsh? Is it true you're moving to Milan?" The questions hammered against her skull as she pressed herself against the hotel's marble pillar. She'd only wanted to attend her friend's wedding reception in peace, but someone had leaked her location. The lobby teemed with photographers, their cameras forming an impenetrable wall between her and the exit dot. Her breathing quickened. The wall seemed to pulse inward with each flash. She'd read about panic attacks, but never experienced one until fame had found her. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd spent years trying to get people to look at her art, and now all she wanted was to be invisible. "Please," she whispered, though nobody could hear her over the chaos. "I just want to leave." That's when she felt it, a warm, steady hand sliding into hers, not grabbing or pulling, just offering. She looked up into eyes the color of storm clouds, belonging to a man in an impeccably tailored black suit. He wasn't looking at her, but rather through the crowd, calculating something she couldn't see. "Trust me," he said, his voice low and certain, and carrying despite the noise. Before she could respond, he was moving, and she found herself following. His presence seemed to part the crowd like Moses with the Red Sea. He didn't push or shove. Reporters simply stepped aside, some lowering their cameras in recognition. She heard the whispers starting behind them. "Is that Damien Blackwood, the Blackwood Industries CEO? But he never appears in public." The name hit her like cold water. Damien Blackwood, the phantom of the financial world, tech genius, corporate raider, philanthropist. The man who'd built an empire before 30 and then disappeared from public view. Forbes had run a cover story just last month. "The Invisible Billionaire. Why Damien Blackwood Shuns the Spotlight." Yet here he was, leading her through the chaos. With her hand in his dot, they reached a private elevator she hadn't even known existed. He pressed his thumb to a scanner, and the doors whispered open. Only when they closed, sealing out the chaos, did he release her hand. "You're shaking," he observed, shrugging off his suit jacket. Before she could protest, he draped it around her shoulders. It smelled like cedar and something else, rain, perhaps. "Thank you," she managed, pulling the jacket tighter. "But why did you—" "No one should look that terrified in a place meant for celebration," he said simply. "Besides, I've been watching you all evening. You spent the entire reception trying to hide behind the ice sculpture." Heat flooded her cheeks. "You were at the wedding?" "Dimitri is my cousin," he said as the elevator rose, "though I doubt he noticed. I'm rather good at not being seen when I choose. But everyone saw you just now." His lips quirked into something almost resembling a smile. "Yes, well, sometimes being visible serves a purpose. They'll be so busy trying to figure out why I surfaced that they'll forget to follow you." The elevator opened onto a private rooftop terrace. The city sparkled below, but up here it was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. She could breathe again. "This is where you disappear to?" she asked. "One of the places." He moved to the railing, giving her space. "You're the artist, the one from the auction. The overnight sensation," she said bitterly. "That's what they keep calling me." "You make it sound like a curse." "Isn't it?" She joined him at the railing, keeping a careful distance. 3 weeks ago, I was just Celeste. Now I'm a headline, a story, a thing to be consumed and discarded when the next scandal comes along. And yet you created something beautiful enough to stop a room full of billionaires in their tracks." She looked at him sharply. "You were there?" I bought your painting, the world tilted. Your Gregory Walsh? A necessary fiction. I prefer my privacy. He turned to face her fully. Your painting, Solitude in Storms, it understood something most people never grasp, which is that being alone and being lonely aren't the same thing. His eyes held hers. That sometimes the quietest souls speak the loudest truths. Behind marble walls, the penthouse materialized around Celeste, like something from a dream, or perhaps a museum. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan's glittering skyline, while abstract sculptures stood sentinel in pools of carefully directed light. Yet despite its grandeur, the space felt unexpectedly warm, lived in. A coffee-stained manuscript lay open on a leather ottoman. A half-assembled chess set waited on an ebony table. "You actually live here," she said, surprised. "I expected something more." "Sterile, cold, villainous," Damien suggested, setting 2 crystal glasses on the bar. "The media does paint quite the picture. They make you sound like a corporate vampire, buying companies in the dead of night, disappearing before dawn. Disappointingly, I conduct most acquisitions during regular business hours." He poured amber liquid into both glasses. "Though I confess to being nocturnal." "Brandy?" She accepted. The glass, her fingers brushing his. That same electric certainty from the elevator returned. "Why did you really buy my painting?" Before he could answer, the private elevator chimed. A woman swept in, tall, elegant, with Damien's same storm cloud. Eyes, but none of his restraint. She wore emerald silk and an expression of barely contained fury. "Damien Blackwood, you impossible man." She pointed an accusatory finger. "Marcus just called. You caused a scene? You who hasn't been photographed in 3 years." "Victoria," Damien said calmly, "meet Celeste Moreau. Celeste, my sister." Victoria's demeanor shifted instantly. "The artist? Oh, darling, your work is extraordinary. I've been trying to buy Moonlight Fugue for months, but some horrible collector keeps outbidding me." She shot her brother a suspicious look. "That wouldn't happen to be you." "I plead the fifth." "You don't even display them," Victoria protested. "They're probably locked in that vault of yours with your first editions and your paranoia." "They're in the library," he corrected, "where I can see them while I work." Celeste watched their interaction, fascinated. This wasn't the cold billionaire from the business journals. This was a brother, quietly enduring his sister's theatrical scolding, while a fond smile played at his lips. Victoria Quota's phone buzzed. She checked it and groaned. "The pictures are already online. Mysterious billionaire rescues rising art star. Mother will be thrilled. She'll think you're finally dating someone suitable." "We're not," Celeste started. "Dating," Damien finished. "Victoria, don't you have a gallery opening in Tokyo?" Subtle as a sledgehammer, brother dear. But Victoria was already gathering her coat. "Celeste, darling, when you tire of my brother's brooding, call me. I know all his embarrassing childhood stories." She kissed both of Damien's cheeks, whispered something that made him scowl, and vanished into the elevator. "I'm sorry," he said once they were alone. "Victoria has no boundaries." "She's wonderful." Celeste meant it. "You're lucky." "Even when she's trying to auction off my dignity." "Especially then." She moved to the windows, studying the city below. "My family thinks my art is a hobby. They keep sending job listings for accounting positions. And yet you persist. Stubbornness or stupidity, the jury's still out." "Purpose," he corrected, joining her at the window. Their reflections overlapped. In the glass, her in his jacket, him in shirt sleeves, both looking like they belonged somewhere else. "It's what I saw in your painting. That fierce determination to exist on your own terms." "Is that why you hide? To exist on your terms?" "I learned young that visibility comes with a price. Every relationship becomes a transaction. Every gesture gets dissected for motive." He paused. But tonight, seeing you trapped, I remembered what it felt like before I learned to disappear. And now you're visible again. Tomorrow's headlines will be brutal. Let them write what they want. Marcus will manage it. As if summoned, a compact man with silver temples emerged from what Celeste had assumed was a wall. Sir, the situation is contained. I've redirected media attention to the Walsh identity, and our legal team is addressing the harassment Miss Moreau experienced. Celeste, my assistant Marcus. Marcus, Miss Moreau will need safe passage home. Already arranged, sir, though I might suggest— Marcus hesitated. What is it? There's a considerable crowd outside Miss Moreau's apartment building. It might be wise to wait until morning. Celeste's heart sank. Of course they'd found where she lived. Privacy was just another casualty of viral fame. The guest suite is yours, Damien said quietly. No obligations, no expectations, just a safe place to rest. She should have said no. Should have called Marina, crashed on her couch, faced the crowds. But something about this strange night, the rescue, the conversation, the unexpected warmth in his storm cloud eyes, made her want to stay in this bubble a little longer. Just tonight, she agreed. Marcus disappeared again, presumably through his hidden door. Damien showed her to a suite that was larger than her entire apartment, all cream and gold, with a bathroom that belonged in a spa. There are clothes in the wardrobe, he said from the doorway. Victoria's shopping addiction has its benefits. She keeps emergency outfits everywhere. Damien, she called as he turned to leave. You never answered. Why did you really buy my painting? He paused, his profile carved by moonlight. Because it was the first thing in years that made me want to stop hiding. The door closed softly, leaving her alone with her thundering heartbeat and the glittering city below. She pulled his jacket tighter around her shoulders, inhaling cedar and rain, and wondered what she'd stepped into. Whatever it was, she had the feeling her life had just taken a turn toward something beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Tomorrow would bring headlines and consequences. But tonight, in this marble sanctuary above the chaos, she felt something she hadn't experienced since fame found her. Peace. The lighthouse keeper's secret. The Atlantic crashed against the rocks below as Celeste stood on the cliff's edge, salt wind whipping her hair into a frenzy. 3 days had passed since the hotel rescue. 3 days of hiding in Damien's penthouse while Marcus orchestrated damage control. This morning, when the walls began closing in again, Damien had surprised her. I have a place, he'd said simply. Away from everything. Come with me. Now she understood why he'd been so cryptic. The estate sprawled along Maine's jagged coastline, not ostentatious, but perfect in its isolation. The main house was all weathered wood and huge windows designed to blend into the landscape rather than dominate it. But it was the lighthouse that drew her attention, standing sentinel on the furthest point. You own a lighthouse? My grandfather bought it in 1953. Damien said, handing her a thermos of coffee. He was convinced the world was getting too loud, wanted somewhere to think. Wise man. Thomas would agree with you. She followed his gaze to where an elderly man was tending to a garden that seemed impossible in the salty air. He waved, his deeply lined face breaking into a grin. Mr. Damien, you didn't say you were bringing a guest. Thomas keeps the place running, Damien explained as they approached. He's been here since before I was born. Thomas studied Celeste with sharp blue eyes. You're the artist, the one from the papers. Guilty. Don't be. Fame's like a storm, loud, messy, but it passes. He turned to Damien. Your grandmother would have liked her. She's got the same look, like she sees things others miss. Damien's expression softened. Thomas knew my grandparents. He loves telling embarrassing stories about my childhood. The summer you tried to paint the lighthouse purple, Thomas chuckled. Or when you built that raft to sail to Europe. I was 8, Damien protested. and determined. Nearly made it past the breakwater before I caught you. Celeste laughed, the sound carrying across the wind. It was the first time she'd truly laughed since the auction. Her phone buzzed. Marina again. Her best friend had been calling non-stop. I should take this, she apologized, stepping away. Celeste Moreau, you better be alive. Marina's voice exploded through the speaker. You disappear with some mysterious billionaire and don't call? I've been imagining every episode of Dateline. I'm fine, Mari. Better than fine, actually. Where are you? Maine. He has this lighthouse. He has a lighthouse. Of course he does. Next you'll tell me there's a tragic backstory and a loyal butler. Groundskeeper, actually. And I don't know about tragic, but you like him. It wasn't a question. Celeste, honey, I can hear it in your voice. Celeste watched Damien and Thomas examining something in the garden, their heads bent together in easy companionship. It's complicated. When isn't it? Look, just be careful, okay? These billionaire types, he's different, Mari. They all are, until they aren't. After promising to check in daily, Celeste ended the call. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. She found Damien at the lighthouse, climbing the spiral stairs to the lamp room. Thomas seems to adore you, she said, joining him at the top. He practically raised me. My parents were always traveling for business. This was where they sent me for summers. And you tried to paint it purple? My grandmother's favorite color. She died that spring. He leaned against the window frame. I thought if I made something beautiful enough, she'd come back to see it. Damien. Thomas found me crying, covered in paint. Instead of scolding me, he helped me finish. We painted the door purple, said it was like she was still welcoming us home. The door below was still purple, she realized. Faded but maintained. Is that why you collect art? Looking for something beautiful enough? I stopped believing in that kind of magic long ago. He turned to her. Until I saw your painting. The way you captured isolation without loneliness. It was like you understood something I'd never been able to articulate. We're all looking for someone who understands our silence, she said softly. Dot. The lamp suddenly blazed to life, automatic sensors responding to the dying light. The beam swept across the darkening ocean, a rhythm as old as the lighthouse itself. Thomas told me something once, Damien said, that lighthouses don't save ships by going to them. They save them by standing still, being constant, something to navigate by. Is that what you're trying to be? I don't know what I'm trying to be anymore. He looked at her, vulnerability cracking his composed facade. 3 days ago, I had everything figured out, hidden but safe, alone but not lonely. Then I saw you, pressed against that pillar, terrified, and all my careful distances collapsed. Why? Because you looked how I felt for years, trapped by something that was supposed to be good. Success, fame, achievement, all the things we're told to want. But you were drowning in it, and you threw me a lifeline. Maybe we threw each other one. Her phone rang again, not Marina this time, but her agent. She declined the call. They want me to capitalize on the attention. Book deals, gallery shows, a reality series. Everyone wants to profit from the chaos. What do you want? Time, she said immediately. Time to create without wondering if it's marketable. Space to breathe without cameras. The chance to be nobody. Again, just for a little while. Then stay. The word hung between them like the lighthouse beam. Steady, bright, impossibly appealing. I can't hide forever. Not forever. Just until you remember who you were before they decided who you should. Below. Thomas was lighting lanterns along the garden path. The waves continued their eternal conversation with the rocks. And in this lamp room, with the light sweeping around them like a protective circle, Celeste felt something shift. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll stay. For a while. Damien smiled, Not the careful half-smile from the penthouse, but something genuine and unguarded. "I'll tell Thomas to make up the blue room. It has the best view of the sunrise." As they descended the lighthouse stairs, Celeste's phone buzzed with another call from her agent. This time, she powered it off entirely. The world could wait. Here, in this place where the land met the sea and a purple door welcomed wanderers home, she'd found something worth more than fame or fortune. She quote, "To found shelter from the storm." When storms collide, the morning started with deceptive calm. Celeste had been at the lighthouse for 2 weeks, finding her rhythm in its isolation. She painted in the lamp room while Damien worked on his laptop below, their comfortable silence, interrupted only by Thomas's lunch deliveries and evening walks along the shore. She was mixing a particularly stubborn shade of cerulean when Damien's phone shattered the peace. "What do you mean he knows?" Damien's voice carried up the stairs, sharp with an edge she'd never heard. "How could Jonathan possibly— Marcus, I need you here. Bring the entire legal team." She found him in the main house, pacing before the windows like a caged predator. The easy warmth of recent days had vanished, replaced by the cold Billionaire. "From the magazines. What's wrong?" "Jonathan Cross." He spat the name like poison. "A rival who's been trying to force a merger for years. He's discovered you're here. So he's threatening to publish photos, intimate photos that don't exist but will by the time his team's done with Photoshop. He wants me to sell him my renewable energy division or he'll destroy your reputation. But that's illegal, immoral, standard practice in his world." Damien's hands clenched. "I should never have brought you here. I've made you a target." "You've made me safe," she corrected. "We'll figure this out." Before he could respond, the sound of a helicopter filled the air. Not Marcus. The aircraft was too elegant, too imposing. It circled once before landing on the lawn like a bird of prey. Helena Blackwood emerged first, dressed in winter white, despite the autumn chill. Even at 70, she commanded attention with the kind of presence money couldn't buy. Power radiated from her like heat from a forge. "Mother," Damien said flatly. "How unexpected." "Darling." She kissed his cheeks, then turned her laser focus on Celeste. "Miss Moreau, you're prettier than the photos suggest. Though that's not saying much, the press does love their unflattering angles. Mrs. Blackwood, Helena, please, or Mother, if this continues." She swept into the house as if she owned it, which Celeste realized she probably did. "Jonathan Cross called me this morning, gloating, about my son's compromise with an artist." "There's no compromise." "Of course there is." Helena poured herself brandy from Damien's bar, despite it being barely noon. "You're compromised the moment you care about someone. They become leverage, weakness, a soft spot enemies can exploit." Speaking from experience, Damien's tone could have frozen the ocean. "Your father was my soft spot. When he died, I learned to armor those vulnerabilities." She studied Celeste with calculating eyes. "You're in love with my son. I don't deny it. It's written in every line you've painted these past weeks." "Oh yes, I've seen them. Thomas sends me photos. He's always been loyal to me, not Damien." Celeste felt the betrayal like a physical blow, but Damien just laughed, bitter and unsurprised. "Still managing my life from a distance." "Someone has to. You'd have hidden in this lighthouse forever if I hadn't forced your hand." Helena turned to Celeste. "I leaked your location to Jonathan. The room went silent except for the waves below." "You did what?" Damien's voice was deadly quiet. "I gave him just enough to make him overplay his hand. He's so focused on this ridiculous blackmail scheme, he's neglecting the Singapore deal. By tomorrow, I'll have acquired his entire Asian portfolio." She smiled, sharp as winter. "You're welcome. You used Celeste as bait." "I used an opportunity. The girl won't be harmed. Jonathan's too much of a coward for actual scandal. But he'll reveal his intentions publicly, and will destroy him with litigation. Get out. Damien moved between his mother and Celeste. Leave. Now. Don't be dramatic. I've solved your problem. You are my problem. The words exploded from him. Every calculation, every manipulation, every person treated as a chess piece. You taught me to be cold, Mother, to see people as assets or liabilities, never as... As what? Lovers? Partners? Helena's composure cracked slightly. Your father was my partner. When he died, I had to become something harder to protect what he built. To protect you. I never asked for protection. No, you asked for purple paint. Her voice softened unexpectedly. Thomas told me about that too. You wanted to make something beautiful enough to bring someone back. The air shifted, years of careful distance suddenly collapsing. Helena, Celeste spoke quietly, did you really risk my reputation just for a business deal? No. The older woman met her gaze directly. I risked it to see if you'd run. Weak people always do when things get difficult. But you're still here, standing beside my son, even after learning I betrayed you. Because I love him. The words fell into the space like stones into still water, ripples spreading endlessly. Damien turned to her, wonder and disbelief warring in his expression. Celeste, it's true. She faced Helena. I love your son, not his money or his power or his name. I love the man who helps Thomas with his garden and keeps purple paint on the door, who collects art because beauty makes him feel less alone, who saved me not because he wanted something, but because he recognized a kindred spirit drowning. Helena set down her glass with precise control. Then you're stronger than I thought. She moved toward the door, pausing beside Damien. Your father would have liked her. She has the same stubborn integrity he did. Mother. Jonathan will retreat by sunset. The photos will never surface. And I'll handle the media narrative. Tragic artist finds sanctuary with protective billionaire. People love a fairy tale. She touched his cheek briefly. Stop hiding, darling. Your father never wanted you to inherit my ice. The helicopter departed as suddenly as it had arrived, leaving devastation and clarity in its wake. Damien stood, frozen, staring at the spot where his mother had stood. She's right, he said finally. I am compromised. You make me vulnerable in ways I've spent decades avoiding. Is that terrible? It's terrifying. He turned to her, raw honesty in his eyes. And wonderful. And I have no idea how to do this. How to be open, unguarded, real. We learned together. Even after what she did. The manipulation, the games. Your mother plays chess with people because she's forgotten how to be one. Celeste took his hand. But you haven't. You just need practice. Marcus arrived an hour later with news. Jonathan had indeed retreated, his blackmail attempt backfiring. Spectacularly, when Helena's lawyers produced evidence of his photo-doctoring plans. The media was spinning it as a jealous rival's attack on a blossoming romance. The narrative is actually favorable, Marcus reported, bewildered. Your mother's influence, no doubt. That evening, as Thomas served dinner with only a slightly apologetic smile, Celeste realized something. The storm Helena had brought wasn't destruction, it was revelation. All their careful walls had crumbled, leaving only truth between them. I love you too, Damien said suddenly over dessert, in case that wasn't clear. Thomas dropped his serving spoon with a clatter. Finally, do you know how long I've been waiting to hear that? I'm calling your grandmother's sister immediately. She owes me $50 from a bet we made in 1987. As the old man bustled away, muttering about stubborn Blackwoods and overdue wages, Celeste laughed. The sound filled the lighthouse like music, like light, like all the beautiful things worth being vulnerable for. Canvas of tomorrow, The gallery hummed with anticipation. 6 months had passed since the Lighthouse Confession, and tonight marked Celeste's first exhibition since her viral fame. But this was different. Carefully orchestrated on her terms, with pieces created during her time in Maine. The collection was titled Conversations with Solitude, and every painting held a piece of those transformative weeks. "You're nervous," Damien observed, adjusting the silk scarf at her neck. They stood in the gallery's private office, stealing a moment before facing the crowd. "Terrified," she admitted. What if they only came for the spectacle, the woman who tamed the invisible billionaire? Then they'll leave with something unexpected, genuine art from someone who found her voice again. Marina burst through the door, resplendent in copper silk. 5 minutes. The who's who of everywhere is out there. I just saw 3 Oscar winners and a Supreme Court justice. How do you even know these people? "Helena," Damien said dryly. "She's turned supporting Celeste into a social imperative." Through the window, they could see Helena holding court, magnificent in midnight blue. She'd become an unexpected ally, her machinations now aimed at protecting rather than manipulating. Jonathan Cross was notably absent. His company had mysteriously imploded 3 months ago, though Helena claimed no credit with suspicious innocence. "Places, everyone." Marcus appeared, tablet in hand. "The Times photographer needs 5 minutes, then we open." The main gallery space was transformed. Instead of harsh white walls and aggressive lighting, Damien had insisted on warmth. Amber spots, walls painted the color of sea mist, and yes, one purple accent wall that made Celeste's heart ache with its significance. Thomas stood before that purple wall, dressed in his only suit, telling anyone who'd listen about the lighthouse and its history. Victoria held his arm, having appointed herself his escort for the evening. "That's my brother's girlfriend," she announced proudly to a passing curator. "She painted this during a storm. Damien held the lantern for light when the power went out." The story wasn't entirely true. The power had remained on, but the essence was real. Damien had sat with her through that storm, reading aloud from first editions, while she painted what the wind made her feel. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marina's voice rang out, "please welcome our artist, Celeste Moreau." The applause was warm, genuine. These weren't just sensation seekers or social climbers. They were collectors, critics, people who understood art beyond its monetary value. Helena's doing, no doubt, carefully curating the guest list to ensure serious appreciation. "Thank you for coming," Celeste began, surprised by her steady voice. 6 months ago, I was drowning in a kind of success I never wanted. Fame found me by accident, and I lost myself in its noise. These paintings are about finding silence again. Not empty silence, but the kind filled with possibility. She moved through the collection, explaining each piece. The lighthouse series, the garden Thomas tended, the purple door, painted with such tenderness that several viewers wiped their eyes, and at the center, the piece that had started everything, a portrait of hands, one steady, one trembling, fingers intertwined in an elevator between chaos and peace. "This one's not for sale," she said softly. "It belongs to someone who taught me that hiding and being hidden are different things. That vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the ultimate strength." Damien stepped forward from the crowd, taking his place beside her. The cameras flashed, but differently than before. These were art photographers, documenting creation rather than scandal. "Mr. Blackwood," a critic called out, "is it true you're opening your private collection for public viewing?" "Select pieces," he confirmed. "The Blackwood Foundation is establishing a new wing for emerging artists, those who have something to say but haven't yet found their platform." "With Celeste as the inaugural curator," Helena added, materializing beside them with perfect timing. "Though I suspect she'll be too busy with her own work to manage it full-time." The evening blurred into a dream of red dots appearing beside paintings, of genuine conversations about art and meaning, of Thomas regaling the Supreme Court justice with lighthouse tales, while Victoria documented everything for posterity. But the moment that mattered came later, after the crowds dispersed and only their inner circle remained. Marcus had shepherded the press away. Helena had departed with characteristic drama, and Marina was helping Thomas carefully wrap the two pieces he'd insisted on buying, despite Celeste's protests. "You did it," Damien said, finding her on the gallery's small balcony. "You took back your narrative." "We did it," she corrected. "I couldn't have survived without you." "You would have. You're stronger than you know." He pulled out a small velvet box. "But I'm selfishly glad you didn't have." Inside was not a ring, that would come later in the lighthouse lamproom during a summer storm, but a key, old iron, worn smooth by decades of use. "The lighthouse," she breathed. "Thomas is retiring. He wants to travel, see the places he's only read about. The lighthouse needs a new keeper, or keepers." "But your work can be done from anywhere. Marcus has been managing most of it anyway. He's getting a promotion and a raise that would fund a small country." He traced her cheek with one finger. "I want to wake up to purple doors and ocean storms. I want to watch you paint while the light sweeps around us. I want to be visible, but only in the ways that matter." She kissed him then, there on the balcony with the city lights below and stars above, tasting promise and permanence. When they broke apart, she saw Marina on the street below, giving them an enthusiastic thumbs up while Thomas pretended not to wipe his eyes. "Yes," she said simply. "To all of it. Yes." 1 year later, a small item appeared in the art section of the Times. Celeste Moreau's latest collection, The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter, debuts this fall. The artist, who now divides her time between New York and the Maine coast with her husband, technology entrepreneur Damien Blackwood, continues to explore themes of solitude and connection. The collection will be displayed in the new Blackwood Wing for emerging artists, with proceeds supporting young artists seeking authentic expression over viral fame. What the article didn't mention was the purple door that remained bright against the lighthouse's weathered wood, or the small studio Thomas had helped build in the lamproom before his departure for Tibet, or the quiet mornings when Damien read aloud while Celeste painted, their comfortable silence speaking louder than any headline ever could. Fame had found her by accident, tried to drown her in its demands. But love, real, complicated, transformative love, had taught her to swim, not away from the spotlight, but through it, toward something better, something real, something worth being visible for. In the lighthouse, the automatic lamp still swept its beam across the darkening ocean each night, but now it felt less like a warning and more like a welcome, a sign that even in the vastest darkness there was always a way home.